There are days when you don't even recognize yourself. You wake up with plans, with ideas, with intention, but somehow the hours slip away before you touch a single goal. You don't fail because you're lazy. You don't delay because you don't care. You delay because something inside you feels heavier than your desire to move. It's a quiet weight, a weight you rarely talk about, a weight that holds you right where you are, even when every part of you knows you should be somewhere else. That weight is called inertia, not the physical kind you learned about in school, but the emotional kind, the kind that freezes your potential, that pauses your progress, that traps you in a loop of intention without action. Inertia isn't loud. It's subtle. It hides behind small excuses. I'll do it later. It's not the right moment. I need to feel ready first. It whispers these thoughts with such calm certainty that you start believing them. And soon, minutes turn into hours. Hours turn into days. Days turn into months. And the life you meant to build stands still, waiting for you to return. But here is the truth. You've never been told. You don't erase procrastination with motivation. You erase it with movement. Because motivation depends on emotion, and emotion is unstable. But movement creates momentum, and momentum overpowers inertia. Every single time, there is a method, a simple, quiet, almost invisible method that removes procrastination, not by pushing harder, but by shifting your relationship with movement itself. The secret is understanding that procrastination is not a time problem. It is an energy problem, a problem of starting, not of finishing. Because once you start, your identity shifts, your mind clears, your energy rises, your resistance dissolves. The hardest step is always the first one, the step that breaks the inertia. And in this reflection, you will learn how to take that step every single day, even when your mind is tired, even when your heart is heavy, even when your motivation is gone. This is the method that doesn't just improve your life, it reclaims it, and it begins with understanding why inertia holds so much power over your mind and body. That's the next truth. Inertia holds more power over your life than almost any other force. Not because you are weak, but because you are human. Your mind, your body, your emotions all share one silent instinct: to stay where you are, even if where you are is not where you want to be. Inertia is comfort disguised as safety. It's the mind's way of protecting you from the unknown. Because every new action, every step outside what's familiar, requires energy, and energy requires courage, and courage requires uncertainty. So your mind chooses the path that feels easier in the moment, even if it costs you your future. That's the trap. Inertia convinces you that staying still is harmless, but staying still drains you quietly, one delayed task at a time, one postponed dream at a time, one lost moment of confidence after another. You start to feel guilty for not moving. You start to feel disconnected from your goals. You start to feel embarrassed by your own intentions. And that guilt creates more paralysis. That embarrassment creates more hesitation. You're not procrastinating tasks. You're procrastinating your life. Not because you're incapable, but because inertia creates an emotional fog that makes everything feel heavier than it really is. It magnifies fear. It shrinks confidence. It distorts time. It weakens clarity. Inertia isn't just stillness. It's resistance. A quiet resistance that wraps around your potential like a heavy blanket, making even the smallest movement feel impossible. And the worst part is this: inertia grows stronger the longer you avoid movement. Avoiding one task makes the next one harder. Avoiding one decision makes the next one scarier. Avoiding one step makes the path feel longer. You start believing that something is wrong with you. You think your lack of motivation means you lack discipline. You think your low energy means you lack commitment. But here's the truth you've needed to hear for a long time. There is nothing wrong with you. What you're facing is not a character flaw. It's inertia. And inertia is not defeated by inspiration, or pressure, or guilt, or even desire. Inertia is defeated by a single, simple principle. Movement creates energy, not the other way around. You don't wait to feel ready. You move first, and readiness follows. You don't wait for clarity. You move first, and clarity appears. You don't wait for confidence. You move first, and confidence grows. Movement breaks inertia, always. Even the smallest motion can disrupt the heaviest resistance. And once you understand why inertia keeps you stuck, you're ready to learn how to break its power in less than a minute. That's where the real method begins. And that is what comes next. There is a truth, so simple and so powerful, that most people never realize. It could rewrite their entire life. You don't overcome procrastination by thinking. You overcome it by starting. But starting does not mean finishing the task. It does not mean having everything ready. It does not mean feeling inspired. Starting is the smallest possible action that breaks the emotional weight holding you still. That action is the secret, because movement, even microscopic movement, creates energy, and energy breaks inertia. This is the inertia secret. Motion before motivation, action before clarity, movement before confidence. You don't wait to feel better. You move, and feeling better follows. You don't wait for the perfect moment. You move, and the moment adjusts. You don't wait for courage. You move, and courage awakens. Inertia wants you to believe that you need energy before taking action, but action creates the energy you think you're missing. This is why the hardest part of every goal is the first 20 seconds. 20 seconds of discomfort, resistance, and hesitation. If you can break those first 20 seconds, the rest of the task begins to pull you forward instead of pulling you back. Think of a heavy rock lying on the ground. Pushing it at first feels impossible, but once it moves, even an inch, the weight shifts, the friction changes, and suddenly, it begins to roll. Not because it became lighter, but because you overcame inertia. Your life works the same way. The task is not heavy. The starting point is. Once you move, everything else becomes easier. Your mind clears. Your emotions settle. Your body awakens. Your confidence returns. That is the secret you were never taught. Your breakthrough comes not from motivation, but from momentum. And momentum is born in the smallest actions. You tend to underestimate opening the notebook, standing up from the bed, writing the first sentence, arranging your desk, sending one message, taking one step. Tiny motions that feel insignificant but carry the power to transform your entire day. Because momentum doesn't come from big efforts. It comes from small beginnings. Beginnings that your mind tries to avoid because it knows that once you start, inertia loses its control. Every time you take a small, intentional step, you reclaim a piece of yourself that procrastination once took. This is why this method works. It doesn't attack the symptom. It rewires the cause. The emotional paralysis that comes before movement. The inertia secret is not about pushing harder. It's about pushing sooner. Before doubt speaks. Before fear grows. Before excuses multiply. You act. You move. You begin. And life begins to follow. In the next part, you'll learn the practical way to apply this method in under 1 minute. A ritual so small and so simple that it dissolves procrastination at its source. Here is the part no one ever teaches you. The part that transforms the inertia secret from an idea into a practice that actually works. On the days when you feel empty, tired, or disconnected from yourself. It's a ritual, a simple one, a quiet one, a 1-minute doorway that pulls you out of paralysis and places you back into movement. And it begins with only 3 steps. Step 1. Pause for 10 seconds. Not to think, not to plan, just to breathe, just to let your shoulders fall and your mind settle for a moment. This pause resets your system and gives your brain a clean slate to work with. Step 2. Choose one action. That takes less than 20 seconds. Not the whole task, not the final result, just the smallest part of the beginning. If you need to study, your action is open the book. If you need to work, your action is turn on the laptop. If you need to clean, your action is pick up one object. If you need to write, your action is open a blank page. The action must be tiny, almost laughably tiny, so small your resistance has nothing to grab onto, because you're not fighting the task. You're only breaking inertia. Step 3. Move. No countdown. No negotiation. Just motion. Do the 20-second action with zero expectation, and something powerful happens. The moment you do, your brain shifts from avoidance to engagement. Your body wakes up. Your attention sharpens. Your energy returns. Drop by drop, breath by breath. This is the moment when procrastination loses its power, because once you start, the task stops being a threat and becomes something simple, something grounded, something real. The 1-minute ritual is not designed to complete the task. It's designed to create momentum, and momentum carries you further than motivation ever will. Some days, that 20-second action will turn into a full hour of progress. Other days, it will stay small, and that's enough, because the goal is not perfection. The goal is identity. Every time you perform this ritual, you're becoming the kind of person who acts without waiting for the perfect mood, the kind of person who moves first and trusts the clarity that comes after, the kind of person who no longer fears beginnings, and when beginnings are no longer fearful, your entire life begins to open again. In the next block, you'll discover the emotional reason why procrastination feels so heavy, and why this simple ritual cuts through that weight like light entering a dark room. Most people think procrastination is a problem of discipline. They say you need more motivation, more urgency, more drive. But procrastination has never been about discipline. It's about emotional weight. A weight you feel, even when you can't explain it, because behind every moment you avoid a task, there is a story and a feeling you haven't faced yet. Sometimes the weight comes from fear, fear of failing, fear of not being good enough, fear of being judged, fear of disappointing yourself again. You don't delay the task, you delay the emotion that the task triggers. Sometimes the weight comes from expectation, trying to be perfect, trying to impress, trying to meet a standard no one actually asked of you. Perfection freezes people faster than failure. Sometimes the weight comes from exhaustion, not physical exhaustion, but emotional exhaustion, the kind that makes simple things feel impossible. Because when your heart is tired, your mind becomes heavy, and your body follows. Sometimes the weight comes from guilt, the guilt of knowing you've delayed this before, and now it feels harder to try again. Guilt doesn't motivate, it paralyzes. And sometimes the weight comes from the past, old failures, old disappointments, old memories that whisper, "Don't try. It won't work anyway." You don't procrastinate because you're weak. You procrastinate because something inside you is asking for healing, not pressure. You're carrying emotions that were never meant to be carried alone, and your mind, trying to protect you, avoids the task, to avoid the feeling. This is why the inertia secret works, because it bypasses the emotional storm and goes straight to movement, the one thing that quiets the noise and calms the weight. A 20-second action is too small for fear to fight, too simple for guilt to block, too gentle for expectations to twist, too quick for your mind to create stories about failure. Movement creates relief. Relief creates clarity. Clarity creates progress. Progress creates confidence. This is the emotional sequence that breaks procrastination from the inside out, not by forcing yourself to push harder, but by giving your heart something it can handle, a beginning, a breath, quiet step that says, "I'm still here. I'm still capable. I'm still moving." Because the truth is, you don't need to fix yourself to take action. You need to take action to remember that nothing about you is broken. In the next block, you'll learn how this emotional release turns into momentum, and how momentum quietly rewrites your identity. Identity doesn't change through intention alone. It doesn't shift because you say you want to improve. Changes through the quiet evidence you give yourself every day. The truth is simple. You become what you repeatedly do. And this is where the inertia secret becomes something deeper than a method. It becomes a mirror. Every small action you take reflects back a different version of you, a version you may have forgotten or never met before. When you break inertia, even in tiny ways, you send a message to yourself. I follow through. I can begin. I move even when I don't feel like it. These messages sink into your identity, drop by drop, moment by moment, like water shaping stone. You don't feel the change immediately, but it's happening quietly, beneath the surface, because the mind learns from patterns. Give it a pattern of avoidance, and it will call you inconsistent. Give it a pattern of beginnings, and it will call you capable. Give it a pattern of small victories, and it will call you strong. This is how your identity reforms, not through dramatic breakthroughs, but through gentle repetition, the kind of repetition that feels almost invisible on a single day, but undeniable, across a month, a season, a year. Think of a seed. You don't see growth every hour, but something is happening inside the soil. Quiet, steady, unhurried. Your identity grows the same way. Every time you perform that tiny action, opening the notebook, turning on the laptop, organizing one object, you're watering the soil of the person you're becoming, not to impress anyone, not to perform, but to align with a deeper truth. You are the kind of person who doesn't run from beginnings, and the more you act that way, the more your identity shifts from doubt to trust, from overwhelm to direction, from hesitation to grounded movement. You stop believing you're someone who struggles. You start believing you're someone who shows up, and that belief quietly changes everything, because once your identity shifts, your habits follow, your decisions follow, your consistency follows, your goals follow. Momentum becomes natural, not forced. Progress becomes a rhythm, not a fight. And procrastination loses its power, not because you pushed harder, but because you no longer believe. You're the kind of person who stops at the starting line. In the next block, you'll see how this new identity turns into long-term momentum, the kind of steady flow that keeps you moving, even on the days when your mind feels heavy and your heart feels slow. Momentum is not speed. It's not intensity. It's not a burst of motivation that disappears the next morning. Real momentum is a quiet force, a steady pull, a gentle alignment between who you believe you are and what you repeatedly do. And once your identity begins to shift, momentum becomes easier to sustain, because you're no longer fighting yourself. Most people try to create consistency through pressure, through discipline that feels like force, through guilt that whispers, "You should be doing more." But pressure doesn't create momentum. It creates resistance. Momentum is born when your identity and your actions stop arguing and start cooperating. When you take small steps every day, you're not only moving forward, you're teaching your mind that forward is your natural direction. And once your mind accepts that, momentum becomes almost automatic. This is why people who build identity through consistent beginnings rarely fall back into deep procrastination. They can get tired, they can get busy, they can get overwhelmed, but they don't collapse, because momentum creates a foundation, a kind of inner stability that carries you, even when your energy fluctuates. Think of a river. A river doesn't rush constantly. Some days the flow is strong, other days it's gentle, but it never reverses direction. It keeps moving, because its identity is movement. Your life can become that river when you adopt small daily actions, and your identity shifts. Your momentum becomes self-sustaining. You no longer need massive bursts of energy to make progress. Your habits take over. Your clarity strengthens. Your emotions support you instead of stopping you. And even when you slow down, you don't stop. Momentum becomes the safety net that keeps your life moving. When everything else feels uncertain, it carries you on the days when you feel clear, and the days when you feel confused. It carries you in seasons of confidence and seasons of doubt. It carries you because you've taught yourself to move before your mind catches up. And that habit, once built, is incredibly hard to lose. This is the moment when procrastination stops being your default state and becomes just a temporary pause, a moment you can break with one small action. In the next block, you'll learn how to protect this momentum so it becomes stronger, more stable, and more natural. With every passing day, momentum is precious. It takes time to build, but only a moment of doubt, or a single heavy day, to make you feel like you're slipping back. This is why protecting your momentum is just as important as creating it, not with force, not with pressure, but with awareness, with gentleness, with the kind of self-respect that says, "My progress matters." Here's the truth. Your momentum weakens when you forget who you're becoming and return to the habits that belonged to an older version of you. So protecting momentum begins with protecting identity. Identity leads. Action follows. Momentum grows. To protect momentum, you don't need to push harder. You need to guard the small practices that keep you grounded. The first practice is simplicity. Don't overload your days. Don't build plans that collapse under their own weight. Don't expect perfection from a heart that is still healing. Keep your actions small, realistic, and gentle enough that they don't trigger resistance. Simplicity protects your momentum by keeping your mind clear and your energy steady. The second practice is honesty, not harsh honesty that criticizes you, but compassionate honesty that keeps you aligned. Ask yourself, what do I really need today? Some days you need focus. Some days you need rest. Some days you need a slow start. Some days you need a clearer plan. When you listen to yourself, you make decisions that support your momentum instead of sabotaging it. The third practice is presence. Momentum doesn't disappear because life gets busy. It disappears because your mind jumps too far ahead, thinking about everything you haven't done. Creates overwhelm, but grounding yourself in the next step creates direction. Presence turns chaos into clarity. The fourth practice is recovery. Rest is not the enemy of momentum. Rest is the maintenance that keeps it alive. When you feel tired, slow down. When you feel scattered, breathe. When you feel overwhelmed, step back for a moment without abandoning your path. Rest protects momentum because it protects you. And the fifth practice is returning quickly. Momentum doesn't require you to avoid mistakes. It requires you to return to the path as soon as you notice you've drifted away. A day of distraction does not undo your progress. A moment of hesitation does not erase your identity. What protects your momentum is the speed at which you come back. When you return quickly, you remind yourself, I don't quit, I recalibrate. You don't collapse because you trust that you can begin again at any time, and that trust is one of the strongest protectors of long-term momentum. In the next block, you'll learn how protecting momentum naturally leads to transformation, a kind of quiet evolution that reshapes your life without force or struggle. Transformation doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or some dramatic moment where everything suddenly changes. Real transformation is subtle, slow, steady, the kind of growth you only notice when you look back and realize you're no longer the person you used to be. And it begins the moment your momentum starts to feel natural instead of forced, when your actions are no longer a battle, but a rhythm, when consistency stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like identity. This is the turning point most people never reach. The moment where momentum becomes transformation. Because you're no longer working from pressure. You're working from alignment. You're acting from a place that feels honest, grounded, and true to who you are becoming. And that subtle shift changes everything. You begin to notice that tasks feel lighter, not because they changed, but because you did. You begin to notice that you recover faster from distractions, from fatigue, from doubt. You begin to notice that you no longer wait for the perfect moment. You create the moment by taking the first step, and slowly, your life starts to move in a different direction. The direction of clarity, the direction of purpose, the direction of self-respect. Transformation is not something you chase. It's something you grow into, like a tree, slowly reaching toward the light, without forcing a single inch. Your progress is no longer a negotiation between who you are and who you wish you were. Your progress becomes a natural extension of the person you're becoming. Through daily movement, even your setbacks start to feel different. They stop being proof that you've failed. They become reminders that you're human and that you know how to return to your path whenever you drift. This is transformation, not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of direction, no matter what happens. And as the days pass, you begin to feel something you may not have felt in a long time. Trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in your ability to begin again. Trust in your capacity to grow. Not because everything is perfect, but because you've shown yourself what you do. When nothing feels perfect, transformation is built on those quiet moments, the moments when you choose direction over delay, movement over hesitation, and identity over fear. In the next block, you'll learn how to deepen this transformation, so it becomes not just a phase, but a foundation for every future step you take. There comes a moment when transformation is no longer something you feel. It becomes something you live, not through intense effort, but through gentle alignment, through the quiet choices you make again and again, almost without thinking. This is the moment when your path stops being a struggle and becomes a lifestyle. Not perfect, not dramatic, just steady, grounded, honest. A way of life that grows from the person you've slowly become through daily movement. In this stage, you begin to notice that your decisions carry a different weight. You don't choose convenience. You choose direction. You don't choose delay. You choose alignment. You don't choose old habits. You choose the version of yourself you're committed to growing into. And these small decisions build a life that feels intentional instead of reactive. This is how transformation becomes a lifestyle, not through intensity, but through consistency. You create a rhythm that feels like breathing, natural, steady. And the more you live this rhythm, the more your identity, your emotions, and your actions begin to harmonize. The battles you once fought every day start to lose their power. The inner resistance that used to stop you becomes quieter. The old stories that told you you weren't capable slowly fade into the background, not because they vanished, but because they no longer define you. You've outgrown them. You've stepped into a way of life where movement is part of who you are. Even your setbacks start to feel different. They no longer throw your life into confusion. They become signals Simple reminders that it's time to return to your rhythm, a rhythm you trust, a rhythm you know, a rhythm that protects you from falling back into old patterns. This is the point where your growth stabilizes, where your momentum is no longer fragile, where your progress is no longer accidental, where your effort is no longer inconsistent. You've entered a new chapter, a chapter where showing up is part of your identity, and progress is part of your routine. And in this chapter, life begins to respond in ways you didn't expect. Your emotions soften, your clarity deepens, your direction becomes stronger, not because the world changed, but because you did. In the next block, you'll see how this lifestyle naturally begins to shape your mindset, your environment, and the opportunities that come your way. When a way of life becomes steady, your mind begins to change with it. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but gently, like the slow clearing of a fog that has been sitting over your thoughts for far too long. This new state of mind is not louder, it's quieter. It doesn't push you, it centers you. It doesn't overwhelm you, it guides you, and it appears because your daily actions and your inner identity are finally speaking the same language. When that happens, your mind stops being a battlefield and becomes a place of direction. You start to notice that your thoughts are less reactive and more intentional. Your inner dialogue becomes kinder, less rushed, less critical, not because you force positivity, but because your behavior finally gives your mind a reason to trust you. Trust changes everything. When you trust your ability to take action, your mind becomes calmer. When you trust your ability to return after setbacks, your mind becomes clearer. When you trust your identity as someone who moves, your mind becomes supportive instead of resistant. This is one of the most powerful shifts you'll ever experience. A mind that stops sabotaging you and starts cooperating with you. You begin to feel less pressure and more presence, less noise and more clarity, less doubt and more grounded confidence. Not the kind of confidence that shouts, the kind that breathes, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything, the kind that comes from knowing you've shown up for yourself again and again. Your emotional state begins to reflect this as well. You become less overwhelmed by tasks, less intimidated by beginnings, less discouraged by slow days, because you now understand that movement is always available to you, and that understanding creates an emotional stability you may not have felt in years. The tension in your chest begins to soften. The pressure in your thoughts begins to fade. The weight of old expectations begins to lift. You realize that you no longer need to fight your emotions to make progress. You only need to stay aligned. This is the mental and emotional shift that turns growth from a goal into a state of being. A state where clarity feels natural, and direction feels possible, and effort feels meaningful. A state where your mind supports your movement instead of stopping it. A state that prepares you for a deeper chapter, one where purpose, focus, and long-term vision start to awaken in ways you couldn't feel when your life was filled with inertia. In the next block, you'll step into that chapter, exploring how this new clarity opens the door to a stronger purpose and a deeper sense of what your life can become. when your mind becomes clearer, and your actions become steady, something unexpected begins to rise from the quiet places within you. Not urgency, not pressure, not the need to chase a dream out of fear or comparison. Something gentler, something deeper. Purpose, not the dramatic purpose people talk about as if it must shake the world, but the kind of purpose that starts as a whisper, a direction, a pull, a feeling that your life can move toward something meaningful. Purpose doesn't arrive when you feel inspired. It arrives when you feel aligned, and alignment is exactly what you've been creating through every small action, every quiet moment of movement, every time you returned to your path instead of abandoning it. Purpose grows where clarity lives, because when your mind is no longer clouded by procrastination, fear, or overwhelm, you finally have the space to hear yourself, not the noisy self that reacts to everything. Your deeper self, the one that knows what direction feels right, what matters to you, and what kind of life you're quietly craving. This is why daily action creates more than progress. It creates inner order, and inner order makes purpose visible. You begin to notice the tasks that energize you, the habits that feel meaningful, the paths that feel honest, the goals that feel like yours, not borrowed, not pressured, not imposed. Purpose doesn't demand perfection. It asks for attention. And now, because your mind is steady and your identity is stronger, you finally have the attention to listen. You start to feel drawn toward ideas that once felt out of reach. You start to imagine possibilities instead of obstacles. You start to believe that change is not only possible, it's already happening in the background of your daily choices. Purpose grows quietly in the soil of consistency. Every small action has been planting seeds you didn't even realize you were watering. And now, in this chapter, those seeds begin to break the surface, not as certainty, not as a perfect plan, but as direction. The kind that feels real, the kind that feels grounded, the kind that feels like home. You no longer ask, "What is the meaning of my life?" You begin to ask, "What is the next honest step?" And that question has more power than any 5-year plan, because it keeps you connected to the present while gently guiding you toward the future. You're now strong enough to build. In the next block, you'll discover how purpose turns into long-term direction, a vision grounded in clarity, supported by consistency, and shaped through the small actions you now perform with confidence. Vision is not a picture of the future. It's a feeling of direction, a quiet knowing that your life can move toward something better, one honest step at a time. And now, because your purpose has begun to rise from that quiet place within you, vision finally has a space to grow. Vision doesn't come when you force it. It comes when you're ready to receive it. And readiness is born from consistency, from the steady rhythm of small actions that have cleared your mind, stabilized your emotions, and strengthened your identity. In this stage, vision becomes clearer because you are clearer. The fog has lifted, the noise has settled, the weight has softened, and now you can see beyond survival, beyond procrastination, beyond the emotional clutter that once made everything feel heavy. You begin to notice what feels aligned and what feels empty. You begin to recognize which paths open you and which ones drain you. you begin to understand what kind of life you want to move toward, not because someone told you, but because your daily actions have reconnected you with your deeper truth. Vision grows from that truth. It doesn't demand certainty. It asks for honesty. Honesty with what you want. Honesty with what you fear. Honesty with what you're willing to build. And slowly, your life begins to gain shape. Not a rigid plan. Not an overwhelming blueprint. A direction. A pull. A sense that the next months of your life can be different from the months behind you. You begin to imagine goals that once felt impossible, not because they magically changed, but because you changed. Your identity is stronger. Your momentum is stable. Your actions are consistent. Your emotions are clearer. And vision grows where strength, clarity, and action meet. It shows you what matters. It shows you what's worth your time. It shows you what deserves your energy, your discipline, your attention. And it also shows you what no longer belongs in the life you're building. This is the moment where your future stops being a hope and becomes a direction. You're not wandering anymore. You're not lost in your thoughts. You're not drowning in hesitation. You're moving with intention, with awareness, with a quiet confidence that grows stronger with every small beginning. Vision doesn't rush you. It aligns you. It gives meaning to your habits. It gives purpose to your discipline. It gives strength to your movement. And as it grows, you begin to sense that your life is not only changing, it's preparing for expansion. In the next block, you'll step into that expansion, a deeper state of confidence, gratitude, and inner certainty that becomes the emotional foundation for everything you build next. When your vision becomes clear and your direction becomes steady, something begins to expand inside you, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, like the gradual widening of the sky after a long night. This expansion is not about achieving more. It's about becoming more grounded in who you are becoming. It feels like a soft certainty, a deeper trust that your life is now aligned with a direction that makes sense. Not perfect sense, not complete sense, just honest sense. The kind that settles your chest and loosens the tension you've carried for years. This inner certainty doesn't ignore your fears. It simply holds them without letting them lead. It doesn't deny your doubts. It just refuses to let them decide your path. And it grows because you've given yourself enough evidence to believe in your own movement. Every small action has become a thread in a larger fabric that now supports you. Every quiet beginning has reinforced your identity. Every moment of momentum has strengthened your direction, and together they've created a sense of stability that doesn't depend on perfect days or flawless discipline. This stability is one of the greatest gifts of your transformation, because when your inner world stops feeling chaotic, your outer world becomes easier to navigate. You make decisions with more clarity. You handle challenges with more calm. You recover from setbacks with more wisdom. You no longer panic when life becomes uncertain, because certainty no longer comes from the outside, comes from within. This is expansion, not the enlargement of your goals, but the widening of your capacity to hold them. You become more patient with yourself, more compassionate with your process, more confident in your ability to create direction from any moment, no matter how small. and gratitude begins to appear. In unexpected places. Gratitude for the days you kept going. Gratitude for the moments you returned to your path. Gratitude for the strength you didn't know you had. Gratitude for the clarity that now feels like a companion instead of a stranger. This is the emotional expansion that prepares you for the final stage, integration, a state where your new habits, your new identity, your new clarity, and your new purpose come together as a stable foundation for everything you build next. In the next block, you'll enter that integration, a closing reflection that ties your entire journey into a feeling of peace, direction, and inner alignment that stays with you long after the video ends. There comes a moment in every journey of growth when everything you've been building quietly comes together, not as a dramatic breakthrough, not as a sudden realization, but as a calm understanding that settles deep inside you. This moment is called integration. It's the point where your actions, your identity, your clarity, your purpose, and your vision stop feeling like separate pieces and begin to feel like one life, one direction, one rhythm, one steady movement that carries you forward. You can feel it in your body. The tension softens, the confusion quiets, the doubt loosens its grip. You can feel it in your mind. Your thoughts don't rush anymore. They don't scatter the way they used to. They find their place and make space for what truly matters. And you can feel it in your heart, a sense of belonging to your own path, a sense of trust in your own ability to begin, a sense of calm you didn't know you were missing. Integration is not perfection. It's alignment, a deep knowing that the person you are now is connected to the person you're becoming. You're no longer moving from desperation. You're moving from intention. You're no longer chasing discipline out of fear. You're showing up because that is who you are now. And as this truth settles in, you begin to understand why the simplest steps were always the ones that mattered most, because small actions did more than break procrastination. They made you someone who can trust their own footsteps, someone who doesn't collapse under pressure, someone who can return after a setback, someone who can hold direction even when life becomes heavy, someone who knows that movement is always possible even when motivation is not. This is the quiet strength you've been building through every moment of momentum. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's real, and it's yours. Integration is the point where your life begins to feel coherent, stable, aligned, where the past no longer defines you, and the future no longer intimidates you, where your path no longer feels confusing, because you trust that you know how to walk it. And the most beautiful part of integration is that it doesn't depend on perfect days. It depends on your willingness to return to yourself, to your rhythm, to your movement, again and again, gently, honestly, quietly. This is the life you've been creating through each block, each step, each moment of presence. A life built not on intensity, but on intention, not on pressure, but on awareness, not on perfection, but on alignment. And as this chapter closes, you're left with something far more valuable than motivation. You're left with the certainty that you can begin whenever you need to, that you can move even on the heavy days, that you can return even after you drift, that you can grow in small, steady ways that become irreversible over time. This is your power now, quiet, grounded, real, and it will follow you long after this video ends. In the final block, you'll receive a closing reflection, a gentle ending that ties this entire journey into one peaceful breath. As this reflection comes to an end, take a moment to notice something important. You made it here. You stayed. You listened. You breathed through every part of this journey. And whether you realize it or not, that alone is a form of action, a form of movement, a form of alignment with the life you're trying to create. Growth doesn't always show up in obvious ways. Sometimes it appears in the simple choice to remain present with what you've been avoiding for far too long. You've done that today, and your future self will feel the impact of this moment. The path ahead of you is not a race. It's not a test. It's not a constant battle against who you used to be. It's a quiet unfolding, a gradual opening, a slow becoming. Everything you've learned in this journey, momentum, identity, clarity, purpose, vision, inner certainty, is already inside you, not as pressure, but as possibility, not as expectation, but as direction, not as noise, but as a steady hum of confidence and calm. When this video ends, your life continues with the same truth you've been discovering, piece by piece. You don't need perfection to move forward. You only need beginnings, small ones, honest ones, ones that feel grounded in who you're becoming. And beginnings are always available, even on the days when your heart feels heavy, your mind feels crowded, or your energy feels low. You've learned how to return to yourself. You've learned how to break inertia. You've learned how to move before motivation appears. And that knowledge is a companion that will walk beside you long after this moment passes. So as you step back into your day, carry this with you. You don't have to rush. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to be perfect. You only have to begin. Let that truth become the foundation you lean on whenever you feel stuck, lost, or overwhelmed. You know what to do now. You know how to break the weight. You know how to move in small, steady ways that open doors you once thought were locked. And with each quiet beginning, your life will continue to shift, to open, to unfold in ways that feel more aligned, more honest, and more connected to the person you're becoming. This is your path now, not loud, not rushed, but real. Take a breath. Feel the calm. Feel the clarity. Feel the direction. And when you're ready, begin again.